All good. We officially call the meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency. We call it to order at 6 p.m. But we are going to defer the Pledge of Allegiance until the City Council meeting. So could we please have
Director Weber,
Present.
Director DeForge,
Present.
Director Dumbrow,
Present.
Director Hagedorn, present. Director Ugarte, present. Director Redding, present. And Director Warrington, present.
Do we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
I'll move the consent agenda and the minutes from April.
A second?
I'll second.
Second from Director DeForge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Carries. Do we have any public comment? We have two in writing. Do we have any people present to?
No, the two in writing council meeting, and I didn't receive any comments for URA tonight.
Okay. None. We will move on to unfinished business. We have attachment to our packet from the URA strategic plan timeline from Tiberius. Bill, is there anything to say on that? That's just mostly informational. It looks like next meeting he'll be with us, correct?
Chair, that's correct. We have a standing meeting with them each week, and they are in the middle of a bunch of technical analysis to bring to you your June meeting, and then really kind of kick off project prioritization and kind of the intense work that they'll do with you. So that starts June 1st.
So next meeting, he'll be present at this meeting.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. That brings us through unfinished business A down to B, new property incentive program, staff report, URA grant program.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and so in your packet, you have what is also admitting people in the meeting. You have what is the framework for a single broad potential new grant program for as a property improvement incentive. As you know, there's only one program right now in existence in place, and that is the new food service tenant improvement program. But it's very narrow. So new to the town, new type of cuisine, sit down dining. And it's been active over the past few years, but we do have a lot of businesses or property owners and businesses dealing with space in town that might need some assistance. And so the program description that you have in the packet is really kind of meant to be a rather broad set of things that can be put together into a single program. It's based on a program at Forest Grove and Beaverton, kind of an amalgamation of those two. And it kind of it isn't a specific type of business target. It's really the type of improvements or issues that a property might be having that's hindering it from being a place conducting business. That's the primary kind of goal. So it's pretty broad. So if a business had a historic building, has issues with its roof, and that's problematic regarding investing and making it a sustainable business, it would qualify potentially. It would need to apply and it would be determined, but the program would apply. If you had another business, different type of business, but just kind of has some problems with its facade or some things inside that make it impossible to lease or difficult to attract the business to move into it, for a variety of reasons, this program would apply. So it's a bit broader. And the goal, though, being making underutilized or difficult buildings, bringing them up to snuff so they could be useful to be a place for a business to thrive either downtown or along Glencoe, which is basically the urban renewal district.
Sure. Director Dumbrow, question, Bill. I know we talked about this in a previous meeting, I just wanted to clarify, does this include? What did you call it? Called it a. Basically before they go into business grant, I can't remember, I'm sorry, I just lost it.
Oh, not a problem. The kind of the feasibility assessment. Okay.
Yes.
No, sorry, Director Dunn Brown, no. So to clarify, this program would help. This program would help property owners with difficult properties. And it would help businesses who are looking to move into a challenging property. That, for whatever reason, whatever type of business, whatever, whatever problem there is physically with the property. That's what this program is intended to help. The program you're thinking of is feasibility assistance. And that one that were maybe up to $5,000 or $6,000 can be granted to help with pre-development type planning so they can know whether or not it's even a good idea to move into that business or building. That's not in here. This is kind of meant to do the help with the bigger projects of dealing with properties.
Thank you.
Director Hagedorn here. What about, so one thing that I've noticed is we have a lack of infrastructure for electric cars and chargers in particular. Would any of these count for property owners that may want to attract people?
On private property, conceivably, yes.
Okay.
That would be an improvement to their private property's parking lot. And so that would potentially be something.
Exciting.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say about that is as an urban renewal agency, this agency has the ability to do that in appropriate places of public right of way or URA or property. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an improvement done with a program like this, but it could potentially qualify.
Oh. Why not? Okay.
Okay. Other questions? One from Weber. You have some measurements, you say defined as within 200 feet of commercial street, those other things. Are those measurements DRA boundaries?
Chair Weber, basically, yes. So long as we're doing projects within that physical boundary, we can spend the money doing it.
So when you say the 200 feet, wouldn't it make more sense to say within the URA boundary, that is the URA boundary you're saying? It's the
Yes,
same
just
thing.
another way of saying.
Okay, that's fine. Other questions? What's the goal with this discussion now? Where are we in this process?
So I would say that the program that you have, the program description and the application that you have in the packet is 80% ready for prime time. What we were hoping for you to review or discuss is, are there other things in there that you would like to specifically include? As I recall, vehicle charging stations are not called out specifically in the program. But if you would like to include that, if you would like to include certain energy efficiency measures or some things that kind of get very targeted with what you're hoping property owners or businesses moving into properties, what you're hoping to see from them, now's the time to add them, discuss them and add them.
DeForge and then back to.
Thank you, Chair Weber. Couple of comments on the grant process. So this is really nice. I'd like to see a role for the board in grant approvals. I didn't see that in here. And I also saw that not-for-profits were excluded from eligibility, and I understand why, but I think that they could contribute to the city business environment. So I would like to not see them excluded through a blanket provision.
I'd like to respond.
Okay, a response?
So on the nonprofits, the purpose of the URA is to raise tax revenue, so nonprofit doesn't raise tax revenue. So that would be why it's excluded. That's why we initially requested it to be excluded. So this would not be an appropriate vehicle for that.
I understand that feedback. And I think my research was leading me in the direction that not-for-profits can be eligible because they contribute to the overall business environment, but I'm happy to adjust course if that isn't correct, but my understanding is that you could have that.
Would people have a problem if we double check with Tiberius and find out if that's done other places?
Thank
Would
you,
that be
Chair.
okay?
I think it would, because I think it kind of boils, yeah, let's do that. It would kind of boil down to what kind of nonprofit, honestly. Some nonprofits activities, there's two types of effect you're going for here. There's direct investment in the property that helps boost ultimately taxable assessed value. And then there's the kind of benefits that you can invest in that have what's called a halo effect. That's why the URA, when it does something, it can put in certain public improvements, like on publicly owned property, vehicle charging stations, because it brings people, or it makes you, or a fountain in front of City Hall makes people come downtown more with their kids. So there are certain things that have secondary or what are called halo effects that make a downtown or an urban renewal district more attractive for businesses and investment. So I think that should be something you hear from the consultants on to kind of give you some best practices guidance on that.
So back, what I was really, wanted to say is, I like the idea, in my opinion, of adding the EV for private business. I just caution you to be very careful on anything public. Maybe that, in my opinion, I would suggest that maybe that's a future discussion, but I would just say moving slow in this area, and because we don't want to invest money until we know there's money to, that we're gonna recoup that money. That'd be my advice personally, just move slow with that. But I do like the idea that Director Hagorn start private.
Here. So I have a lot of comments here. Both publicly and privately, we need to really take a serious look at this because it could be, we cry for revenue in the city. This is a serious opportunity. Walmart alone, they see an increase of traffic by 20% by having EVs in their parking lot. That is also a source of revenue. A lot of corporations, this is a standard. I was at the Rogue, in fact, and one of their employees who does not work in the city goes as far as having to charge their EV. And at one point in time, she actually approached me because she thought our EV at the Veterans Park is out of board commission. I confirmed it is in working order, but she was actually charging it at ASML. They have a class 2 charger, which is a faster charger. And here's a surprise. It's not a public charger. She got admonished by some of the security. Our public chargers at the Veterans Place is a type 1, is the equivalent of going and plugging your car into one of these outlets here. It's slow, and we only have 2 of them. Empty location, sorry guys, but in the winter, in the dark, not inviting. We would ideally have these capabilities closer in town. We would want people to clear next to some of our businesses. I think that it's a short-sighted investment, or short-sighted to not have this. In fact, it would pull people and it's a source of revenue. So, and it depends on how we model it. I'm sure that that's something will be a project, but I think it's short-sighted. It would be a lower hanging fruit.
Do we have, I would favor that. Do we have a consensus to move towards developing a way to see if we could do that? There would still be another step before it happens, but bringing that on board in some fashion, are we in agreement to go ahead?
I'd be open to more information.
I think one of the things that Bill is looking for from us is, as we give a framework, we could put like environmental as an important element so that it could get considered in grants, so we would get captured in a way.
Could you guys please speak into your microphones? Having a hard time doing minutes from the recording.
This can't direct it, sorry. Sorry, I just had another thought, but I had a conversation with Representative Edwards, and this is to support what Councilor Hagedorn is saying, but maybe from a different direction. So something This is weird. Something that council and the URA may want to consider independently is there's currently, let's call it, a desire at the state level to fund energy projects. So maybe this is not a one way or the other. Maybe this is something to look into from multiple angles, which would meet what Councilor Hagedorn is talking about. It would support the URA, and maybe there's a way that we could work through the state to get matching funds. So just a suggestion to the board that maybe it's a yes and, but I would like to see more information, but I'm just saying maybe there's an option there to Councilor or Director DeForge's point.
Private property owners need to, I would like to see the ability for private property owners to have the eligibility in this framework. So.
I concur.
Private or public, it needs to be done. And, if there's a lot of, concerns in the ether about the safety of batteries, if you guys want somebody to come and speak to you guys and do some myth busting on environmental impacts, I happen to be married to somebody who can give you guys a 101 on batteries.
Excellent. Would it be possible for city councilors to get Rivians?
What?
Rivians?
This is definitely not the
That's
real.
an attorney question.
All right.
I'll be conducting an executive session later about that.
A practical question. It looked like there was something in here that could affect the ability of a bar to get a grant. Did I read that correctly? Or
Yes, bars are typically excluded from, in the examples that we looked at, bars tend to be excluded from.
even if they're a bar or restaurant, just because they serve alcohol?
No, just strictly speaking, bars.
So if they don't have
Pure
food,
bar, if they don't have food.
Well,
Well, I mean, bars have to have some kind of food in them, but I mean, if it's primarily a bar, what you would think of commonly as a bar, those are commonly excluded.
so what are you thinking the distinction is on ours? Are they excluded?
I would say no.
They're okay.
I would think dive bar. It's something where there's, food is not a consideration. It's not where people broadly go in to eat. Plenty of people go to the road for lunch. So I wouldn't, they would qualify. But it's kind of your purely go in, drink, dive bar sort of.
Okay.
Director Hagedorn here, I think Bill, I want us to run fast with this when we reach a consensus and all the net new additions. Two things that jumped out at me when I saw this was from a process framework. I don't know if what best practice would be recommended by Tiberius, if there's like a ranked scoring thing. That way, it would take maybe some, and I don't know if there's also some automation that we could do from SharePoint, submit forms directly into the website to take some of the weight off of your guys' shoulders when it comes to paperwork. I'm sure that's not fun. And the third thing I would like to see is, what's the go-to-market plan on this? How do we message this, through our, EDC? Can we also task them with socializing this and getting a marketing plan wrapped around this once things are firmed up?
Yes, Director Hagedorn, yes, we can work with the EDC on that. I think the chamber would be a very quick and easy partner on this. It would do all of our standard communication channels to get the information out, website, social media, newsletter, that sort of thing. It's not a big town, so there's not a ton of people we have to, that isn't a big lift to reach everybody who might want to be interested in the program or programs. As far as the application process goes, it's a bigger lift for the applicant than it is for staff. We don't get a ton of them, and when we review them, we put the work into it, but it isn't a ton of effort for staff to go through this. And that's why the application is sort of set up the way it is, be very standardized. I think the big thing we look at, honestly, we look at everything, but the big thing we kind of also pay attention to is when they provide the different quotes for the different costs of improvements. We do look into those a bit. So I don't want to give the impression that reviewing an application is a hassle. Takes a little time, but we do it. Can I throw out two other things we were hoping that you all would kind of discuss a bit? Number one, for the tenant improvement program for food service, we landed on a 50, there were two criteria. Number one is the costs that the urban renewal agency would help with were extraordinary costs. You know, when you move into a space as a business, you work out with the landlord, kind of the the improvements you need inside, where the walls are, where the bathrooms are, how big the kitchen is, and all of that, all of the improvements inside from blank hollow space to what it looks like when it's done. Those are tenant improvements. And the program we have really only helped with extraordinary costs that the landlord couldn't or wouldn't be able to amortize into the lease rate for the property, for the business. And so the question becomes, are you interested in it being kind of more on the extraordinary cost side? And then if it is more extraordinary or the kind of the higher end costs that you're interested in helping with to get them over the hump, we had a 50% match on those costs. 60% if the project is downtown or if the business owner is a resident. Then we would match 60%. So not to throw more choices at you, but I'm throwing more choices at you just from a policy accomplishment perspective. Those are kind of two things to be thinking about, and you can certainly ask Nick when he's here, you know, what works best there. But I just kind of wanted to make you aware that property owners can work with their tenants on certain costs, whatever they are, and amortize that over a 5-year lease and their monthly lease payment and their lease rate. But some things just are very expensive, and it becomes unaffordable to put into the rent. And that's what we focused on with the existing program. So just something to think about
I
there.
like that idea.
Hey, feedback, thoughts? Were you gonna say, you're thinking?
I'm still thinking.
Okay. I would favor the idea, it sounds like you're open to it. This is a wonderful draft, I'm very impressed, but if we could have Tiberius, because they're the experts, look it over. Say, here's a couple thoughts we have, here's one thing you might be aware of, I would really welcome their feedback, and then maybe we have a list like you're saying, what about this, what do you think about that, what do you think, because they're the experts. That sounds
Yeah.
reasonable. Get there.
Please.
We're gonna go here
Yes.
first.
Just some things that can,
Push. You have to hold down versus like green light come on. Or not.
on to off.
There you go.
I think
Okay, in some council reading, some of my research, when I specifically looked at this part, it said it could disadvantage landlords versus tenants and newer versus established businesses. Just if that is something that could be there, and that it can trigger fairness complaints and political backlash.
Director Raymond, correct. So, and that can be a conversation with Nick is here, when Nick is here, if you want to kind of hear if he has any examples of elsewhere. But for instance, with the food service tenant improvement program, one of the big requirements was if you want to qualify, you need to be opening a cuisine that doesn't exist in North Plains. I think one of the difficult things with Melly's was, I think originally when they were thinking of opening, they wanted to do what they know and do well, and that's Mexican food. But we as a URA can't help them with the advantages of a brand new kitchen in a space when La Loteria La Loteria is just across the street, and then the other way across the street is King Torta. And so they went and did kind of do American type pub, gastropub type food, and I think it just didn't ultimately work out because that's not their background. So that's an example of why we have to put in criteria to make sure that we're not helping somebody do something that is a leg up over something very similar that's already here. Just an example. So we'd want to just be careful about that.
So how would we put into place guardrails so that doesn't happen?
I think the nice thing, Director Redding, about a program like this is it's much more about getting the building or the space into shape that otherwise it wouldn't have happened. And I think we can have some criteria in here that, you know, we don't want to put improvements in place that very directly give, you know, an advantage for this business over something existing. We just kind of put it in what the policy, you know, what the program qualifications are. But at this point, you know, since you're not targeting a type of business per se, but rather you're trying to help some of the properties in town that have their issues, things can be written up in a certain way that kind of help with that.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Oh, sorry.
Not at this juncture. There's other things to talk about.
I'll make sure you.
Thank you.
So I just want to come back to something Bill said that stuck with me. And just be curious for the board to consider, things that are, like energy efficient improvements, because especially when you're dealing with historic buildings, the more, in my opinion and experience, the more that we can do, the more longevity we're likely to get, and the more that's likely to raise, you know, the tax-based revenue in the future. So that gives us more options. And it'll also make it a lot easier with the renewal process with the URA, because then we're showing, hey, we're trying to guide this money wise. So just a suggestion to think about. And
How would you put that, how would you put that in?
I think what Bill was getting at, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's, you know, we put a grant, energy efficiency grant, improvement grant or something. What's your thought?
I would say that it's a type of project that qualifies for the program.
That's what I was-
And then we could just kind of drill down, do a little more digging and see what's more common, regarding that.
It just seems very common recently, and if you look around at some of the other cities, a lot of them are looking, I mean, we're not gonna go to the point of LEEDs, but some of the LEED green building initiatives. And whether you're, you know, you want to be environmentally friendly or not, the cost savings, especially current price of energy, is really nice. So it's just something to consider, you know, the board might consider as a way to get more life out of the improvements.
I saw something with energy efficiency.
Are we good? It sounds like I saw nods of heads, that kind of energy to proceed with that a bit now. Good.
Yes,
Great track meetings.
I think so. I just want to make sure that if we are passing this along to Tiberius, we're doing so in a fashion where we don't get bogged down in like, I'm sure that we want to pass on this. So let's be clear what our expected outcomes are from doing so, and I think we need to really challenge ourselves to push this out.
So are we clear with Tiberius? We just want them to look it over, see if there's any problems in it. We're trying to move it forward. Are there any additions or subtractions that they recommend, but with speed?
I'd like to approve something next meeting.
Okay,
That's what I'd like to challenge you guys with.
I mean,
yeah, I think we agree. Clarification. So what we're doing here is we're trying to fast track this kind of focus grant thing. Now, my understanding is there's other things under the URA that would maybe be a secondary discussion. You know, like, I read the original URA, they were talking about a mall downtown, different things. I brought up, could we ever get money to renovate this? Would those be more, are we thinking like secondary discussions? What we're doing here doesn't rule out the other. We're just focusing more on the business stuff, right?
Chair Weber, what we're trying to do with this program is just put a focus on where the properties in town now are unable to be places where business can be conducted. As far as some of the bigger things you're talking about, that's the 5-year strategic plan process. Like what bigger projects, and when, that's June 1. That's June 1.
Okay,
One more thing, if it's okay.
yes.
I would just like to add on to Councillor Hagedorn. I understand she's asking for EV to be added to this. I know that North Plains is a huge bicycle hub. I'm wondering if we can add something around that, you know, electric bike chargers as well, or space for bicyclers to, chain their bikes up and walk around the town, something like that.
So Director Warrington, two answers to that one. Number one, if you all would like to have electric bike chargers be a qualifying project for the program on a property to make it a more viable commercial location, we can do that. What I would also say, the second part of the answer is, Explore Tualatin Valley is working with us on a new, bike station, in the public right of way with us. So I don't know the full scope of everything, that entails, but they are working on that with the EDC. I was not at the last meeting. But some sort of, assisted investment in that is going to be happening soon, but not on private property.
Just wondering, if we might consider adding it to this so people can put it on private property and encourage bicyclists to stop for 2 minutes. I would be in support of that.
I like anything that's private and brings in business.
Private business. I'm out on Saturdays a lot. There's several hundred probably road bikers come through our city. I like the idea of having it mentioned in some fashion. So if somebody had a creative idea to work with them, get their business, and we could give them some money to help with that. Yeah, it's really untapped at this point. We're not getting much out of them, and they're a group that has quite a bit of money. Down here.
Thank you, Councilor Darton here. I don't want to derail us too far for the sake of time, but just hearing some of the discussion regarding bikes and EV. I just wanted to get a clarifying, this might be a Bill Quatford, I'm sorry, Executive Director Reed question. Regarding the parking lot that the city owns, on commercial and the feasibility of making that, you know, a potential spot for EV charging or parking, because I know that's been a resident sentiment, that we received feedback from a few months ago about parking for bicyclists on the weekends is becoming problematic.
So, Director Bugarte, you're referring to the parking lot behind the market and last one, okay. Yes, that can be, that can be a project you all identify and prioritize in the 5-year strategic plan, because it would be a public investment. It wouldn't be helping private property improve. What I would tag to that is the Parks Board has discussed, I've prodded them a bit on it, and I think they're interested in exploring that parking lot becoming where the bicyclists park instead of taking Jesse May's parking when families want to pull up and then unload the kids and play on the playground, or have the birthday party right next and haul the cake to the pavilion. We do have a lot of bicyclists who just park and stay there a long time during the day. And so, from bicyclist parking to bike station to EV charging, that lot is not utilized at all right now. And so I would just, kind of underscore what you're asking, that's an opportunity for a project that kind of accomplishes a few different things.
Excellent.
Agreed.
Excellent. If I'm kind of hearing the energy of the group, it sounds like we would really like the idea. We like this. We like the idea of if there's some small tweaks, but we like that we could approve something at our next month's meeting. If it's okay, if people have something they come up with that they want Tiberius to react to, or the staff, simply submit that in writing to Bill. I think the other thing, if I'm correct, we can get this launched. There can be amendments to this going forward. So this doesn't have to be perfect. I think as Director Hagedorn is saying, let's get this moving, see if we can approve it next meeting, or kind of.
Can I be provocative? Is there anything preventing us from approving this today?
Director Redding. Director.
Just y'all, just.
Director Redding, there we go. That would be yours. Yeah, I had a couple questions of like, what objective scoring system will be used to approve grants? So that we're not there's no rubric, there's no ranking criteria, and there's no weighting in here yet. Am I missing it?
It's not in there yet, that's right. That's right.
So I would want to see that before I approved it. And then, how do we ensure consistent decisions across applicants? And what protections exist if a project fails or business closes? And how are we defining deferred maintenance versus eligible improvements?
All great questions. We can talk more about that at the next meeting when Nick is here. What I would underscore is the importance for you all to have the discussion with or without him about deferred maintenance versus, real, what I would call kind of real, get a property over the hump with a problem need. I will say you've had at least one applicant for grant funds generally come in by a property owner who put their own improvements in and a business operation moved into their property some years ago. And a business recently moved in and they were hoping they could get some reimbursement for some of the costs after the fact. Is that a priority? Or do you want to help a property that's held back by an obstacle and kind of make it able to move, to accept a business to operate inside of it in a feasible way? So that's an important conversation.
Director Warrington, I would really like to wait until the draft is in the draft and it's final before we vote on it. Just so we include everything we talked about, make sure it's there, and then have a 5-minute discussion and vote on it.
Director Weber, I agree with the urgency, but I like the idea of the expert just giving it a eyes on and let us know it looks good, and then we also officially add in these weeks we're talking about, but I agree with the concept, let's get this moving. Others? I'm going to try to keep us moving because we've got another agenda item we want to cover and we're going to end by 6:55. So are people okay with where we're at then? We're going to finalize this next time. And we're going to move on now to the next item on the agenda, which is our attorney, Emily. Am I correct? Are we ready for them?
Director, you have a discussion on the agenda about your meeting schedule moving forward.
Chair Weber,
Yes.
believe that it came from me.
Okay.
My suggestion to the team was that we schedule future URA meetings at 6 p.m. to kind of free up staff time and not reduce meeting length time. I was hoping you guys could consider.
Partly, I would also favor doing them at 6 once a month. That would mean one work session a month, then one URA a month. And trying to not go late at night. I mean, that would be my goal, but I would defer to the group here.
Councilor Warrington, I agree with that theory. If we can have 2 meetings a month and 2 meetings off, the 6 to 7 time frame, that would be helpful. Does that make sense?
Well, what we're talking about is
Clear?
both meetings would begin at 6.
Yes.
One would have a URA, one would have a work session.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Others?
Counselor Ugarte, I just wanted to clarify, Counselor Warrington, were you mentioning we would have a 6 p.m. URA meeting and then 7 p.m. normal city council meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. I don't have it pulled up in front of me immediately, but if my memory serves me correctly, we have scoped out a work session for a majority of our council meetings, maybe through June. So I was just hoping if anyone has it handy, to let us kind of know, what does that look like for the future?
I did check prior to coming in our last work session scheduled, it was June 1st.
Thank you. Just at this point, the only firm work session we have scheduled is for the 18th. And BEH attorney, SN Onart is going to be here to walk through purchasing rules. a discussion of why city purchasing rules need to be updated and how they could be different options. Beyond that, we have, in the packet, we have suggestions for work sessions moving forward. But that's up to you to say, yep, we want it then, or what we want it then. So that's up in the air for you.
Chairman.
Yes.
So the purpose of the work sessions are so we have meetings that end on time. We shouldn't be here longer than 8:30 in a regular session. That means, everybody needs to show up prepared and we need to have less, debate. So that means you need to be prepared, state your case, and then move on and not argue the case. So, from the city council perspective, I think I'm trying to cut down the number of work sessions. That means everybody's got to be prepared and we have to have less. You know, you need to be prepared to state your case and then move on, because not everybody's gonna win their perspective. So, I mean, if Bill is on board, I'm fine with us trying to cram, more into council staff reports personally. And just coming prepared, and then I'll just call on each person so we can keep the meetings moving. That's just my 2 cents, and then we can, I can compromise and have the 6 p.m. URA meetings, as long as we can get our business done during the council meeting.
We're good with that? So we have a consensus, we will give that a try. Obviously, if it doesn't work, at some point, we will change that and go to something else. I skipped over Glencoe Opportunity Area GOA update. Is there any short?
The brief answer is we're working with the EPA on how to register the project in the federal system so that we can be ready to spend money and ask for money reimbursed. We can spend money on the property and then be reimbursed, but we have to be registered with a couple of federal systems, and that's where we are right now.
Okay. Questions? We're good with that. I would like to move on then. We're gonna move on to new business, URA board rules, city attorney.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, no, working. So, I bring for discussion some draft URA board rules. It's basically a best practice to have these, and because the URA is a separate legal entity from the city and URA board is separate from the city council, the council rules don't apply here. But having said that, these draft rules should feel familiar because they were taken and based off of your city council rules and kind of modified. So if there are certain things that don't apply to the URA board and things that kind of are slightly different. So I want to point out that while most URA boards in the state sort of follow the form of government that the city also has in their charter, the city charter, that's not a strict requirement. So if for some reason you want to explore other forms rather than sort of you set the policy, staff, the executive director does the administration, you can explore that. I think if that's something that you have an appetite for, that's for another night. This is for sort of the structure that is most common, is what is here. And I just want to also note that while the sort of council manager policy administration structure is not a strict requirement and is sort of flexible, it's still true that each individual URA board member has no individual authority, right? Your only authority stems from your position on the board. And so unless you are delegated authority to do something, either in the rules or by the consensus of the board, then basically all you can do is show up for the meeting and have a vote and talk here like you are now. You don't have authority to go outside and do stuff. And there's no rules here that say that because that's inherent in the board structure. So this is early and I don't expect you to adopt it today. It's for discussion and conversation. I'm open to hearing, thoughts, modifications, whatever, and questions.
Yes.
So only modification I have is there's no appointment of chair in the rules. Other than that, it looked almost like council rules, but that was my only feedback was that I just noticed that was missing.
Okay, I noticed that was the same,
Oh,
but a little
okay.
late, so, same.
Fine, I just didn't
Yes.
want it to slip, that was all.
Yep. How did you, I wasn't here when you appointed the chair.
So the way it's always been done is we just took a vote at the first, well, actually, first meeting after we had a council or a full board.
Okay,
The first one of every year.
Yeah, the first every year. That's how it was done.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how it's always been, but that's how we do.
Chair Whitman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a suggestion that there be language about the board reviewing contracts and financial commitments. They're authorized and reviewed by the board prior to execution.
And you are, you know, what section you're kind of in there or?
Well, it would be a new section, so I would just leave it to Emily to, if the board has consensus with this, to add that. Wherever she thinks appropriate.
That makes sense, please.
my question would be, any amount, is there a dollar amount that you would, delegate to staff? To, like a purchasing authority?
I thought we were circling back on that topic in particular from a council level.
Yeah, you are, that's what ASIN's coming in to discuss with you on the 18th, at the work session on the 18th.
Should we wait until we have line of clarity there, because I would think that that role would probably flow into both.
Well, I completely agree with that, Director Hagedorn. I did want to put that placeholder here just so that it doesn't get lost. I think we're going to learn more in our work session. And I imagine we'll be consistent between the city council and the board, but I'm open to feedback. I just wanted to call it out to the group.
I'll make a note and I'll see if ASIN can maybe address that also, which is.
Other questions, thoughts?
Councilor Washington here. I'm wondering if, it says the agenda is created by the executive director. I'm wondering if, a co-person could be added to that as the, chair or someone like that. So there's two people making the agenda, so they can bounce ideas, etc.
So just like the city council, this is the reason it reads that way. This is just my input. The reason it reads that way is the executive director, it's confusing. Executive director of the URA, much like the city manager, being one and the same person, takes the council's input and creates the agenda, or the board's input and creates the agenda, just like any other board. So it's not that the executive director is making the agenda, he's just taking all the input from the board and putting it into an agenda. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So is there a way,
That's how we do the city council, so it's just a derivation of that.
okay, my thought was, I thought you, mayor, and the city manager worked together on the agenda, with our input, of course. So in this instance, instead of you, it would be the director of the URA. Just a thought.
It's not in council rules right now, it's just Bill and I have it one-on-one the week before. There's nothing stopping the director of the URA from doing that. I would say it's not something that needs to be in the rules, it's just something that's done because it makes it easier. But
if people were okay with it, I'd like to have kind of a standing issue at the end of the URA meeting where we'd say, what do you want to have on the next agenda? So rather than just a couple of us figuring stuff out, we could all kind of,
it's
director comments.
the same as we do in council.
But I want to specifically encourage in director comments, agenda items, because I want to have a way for people.
Yeah, that's up to the presiding officer.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so you just like to say that.
Yeah, okay, down here.
Thank you, Councilor Ugarte. Just a quick question, on this draft, in section G. Number 3, it says in quote, "The executive director will prepare and schedule agenda items. Members of the URA board may request that items be placed on an agenda at any board meeting or by communication with the executive director," end quote. And so I just want to clarify, what Counselor or Director Warrington had mentioned of that kind of who's placing that authority there. And the way I'm reading this is that, yes, the executive director is preparing the agenda, but it's also with the direction of any director who makes that communication. Or, in conjunction with the, I'm sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought with, during an actual meeting. And so I still feel like the outlet is available, so I don't know, this language is pretty straightforward in my interpretation. I don't know if anyone else is reading it, but I don't think we need to add something in addition.
I agree.
Agreed. Okay. Good. Anything else? So explain the process to getting this to the finish line.
So I will add how the chair becomes chair. And then I don't see why we can't bring it forward for a vote for next meeting. And I'll hold off on the contract stuff. This is, I think it's just adopted by resolution. So, yeah. So, you can always amend it in the future. So I'll have it ready, bring it for the next URA meeting for a vote.
Good? We all good? Okay. In the interest of time, we're gonna be done in a few minutes. We're on to any director. Obviously, we're on a tight time, but any director stuff?
Mandy, Director Hagedorn here. I'm gonna beat the same drum. I wanna make sure that if we need to add public EV to an upcoming meeting and Mandy compel everybody why we need public EVs as a part of our URA planning, I will do so, but I just want to clarify, did we have a consensus that would be discussed in a future planning forum for a project? And options?
Director Hagedorn, June 1 is when Tiberius is here, that will be discussing prioritizing projects, and that's the ideal time to do that.
I have the best nerdy, battery EV church, so I will be sure to bring.
You're proposing a charging station on your cul-de-sac?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Let's move on.
Any other director comments, thoughts? Are we all good to go? Well done. We are gonna adjourn the meeting at 6:53. That's that. Exactly so.